March 12th, 2020, I remember I was in a city called Trenton, New Jersey, and I was getting ready for a concert in the arena downtown when they called us together that afternoon for an emergency meeting to tell us that the city of Trenton was going on something called lockdown, which was a phrase that at that time we knew nothing about. They told us that our concert was canceled and the entire tour that we had just begun was completely canceled. It was time to go home. And the world was about to be shut down in a way that we had never experienced before. So I went into survival mode, and I remember booking a flight out of the Philadelphia airport. It was about an hour away from where I was. So I booked an Uber to come and pick me up outside the arena. And I remember like frantically hopping in the back seat of this Uber and just thinking really nothing about the driver, just thinking I gotta get to the airport as quick as possible. And for the first 30 minutes of that drive, I was basically like having a panic attack in the back seat, just going, what is happening? Calling home, making sure my family's okay. Just, God, where are you? What are you up to? I gotta wear a mask on this flight. What's going on? Just 1,000 thoughts, questions, and fears flooding my mind. But about 30 minutes into that drive, we're heading down the interstate and something snapped me out of it. And it was a song that came on the radio in that Uber car. It was a familiar song. It was my song. You're the God who stays. You're the God who stays. But that wasn't all. The Uber driver, Arthur was his name, he was driving down the interstate with a big smile on his face, singing every word of my song back to me, having no idea the singer was in the back seat. And so I'm completely blown away by what's happening. And I thought, well, I'm just gonna start singing too. Maybe he'll recognize that my voice is similar to the guy on the radio. So I start singing, you're the God who stays, and getting louder and louder. At the end of the song, I leaned forward. I said, hey man, how did I do? And he said, oh, not so good. I'll never forget that response. And he said, but it's not your fault. You're not professional like him on the radio. And then he encouraged me. He said, keep trying. And I'll never forget that moment. You know, the craziest thing happened, that once that moment took place, I forgot all about my own fears, concerns, and panic that was consuming me. And instead, for the rest of the drive to the airport, I talked to Arthur, the Uber driver, and he told me why that song meant something to him, how God has stayed with him through every step of his difficult life, moving from one country to another, being separated from family and friends, trying to become a US citizen, trying to get a job, wondering where our next meal would come from. He knew one who had been with him every step of the way. And I'll tell you what, that wound up being a moment that I returned to time and time again for the next 2 years as our world stepped into uncharted territory. And that story really became the inspiration for an entire book that is a reminder that through it all, through the hardest seasons of our lives, through the hills and through the valleys, even though we may have to experience distance or separation, loneliness, anxiety, whatever the things we are facing, there is one who is with us every step of the way. He truly is the God who stays. My 6th book, The God Who Stays, is available September 6th. I can't wait for you to read it.